forward. Okay, again, session 1, how to pitch your solution with Danielle Cummings, visiting professor at UH. You're on, Danielle.
All right. Thanks, Thelma, and welcome everyone. It's really cool to be with you guys here on a Saturday talking about pitch training. And so a lot of the areas that Thelma mentioned are, passions of mine. I really, really like focusing on human-centered systems. And so anything that really highlights, how do we create systems, technology, applications that make us better as a human being, human society overall, and also make our lives better overall. So hopefully that gives you some insight into some of the content that we're going to be presenting today. One of the things that in my role as a DoD visiting professor at the University of Hawaii is to focus on helping students create solutions and talk about those solutions in a way that hopefully gets them a job. And so opportunities, like hack and other opportunities where you can really get your hands dirty, build something, present that amazing thing that you've created to other people. And then on top of that, be able to tell a story around that in a way that's understandable, in a way that's fast, in a way that gets people interested is one of the critical skills that I think every student needs to have. So hopefully this information that we talk about today is valuable to you, but I promise you it's going to be a skill that will keep on giving throughout your career. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the content. Okay, so I can't see anyone, but if you like to open up your camera and let me see your beautiful faces, that's totally
Do you want me
fine.
to okay, I've had you spotlighted, so I can unspotlight you so you can see everybody else.
Oh no, I just mean everyone has their cameras off.
Okay, got it.
which is fine. So, if you're in a place where you can share, that's totally fine. I'll have folks engage in chat, but yeah, I absolutely would love to have, this be an engaging and interactive workshop. So I'll be calling people. Feel free to engage in the chat if that's more comfortable. We'll probably have a couple of minutes of breakout rooms as well, so you can kind of meet your fellow attendees. But yeah, let's jump right in. Okay, so just throw in the chat. Everyone can see my screen, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for the feedback, folks. All right, so when we talk about pitch training, or if I say the word pitch, what comes to mind? Feel free to put it in the chat.
I think that like
Yeah.
when you mention
Oh,
about pitch, it means that like you are trying to sell a solution to a person.
okay, yeah. So when I hear the word pitch, yeah, I sometimes think of Shark Tank, right? Yeah, you're trying to get sale, you're trying to get funding, right? I love that Kalina said singing. I think of the movie too, or as good as or as bad as you think it is, right? But yeah, presenting something, right? You're presenting something that you've done, or something that you're interested in, or something that you want to have an ask for, right? And so that's exactly what we're going to talk about. So in order to do a proper pitch, we really have to know, how or what information would be useful to the audience that we're pitching to. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the hack presentation judging criteria so that we're all on the same page and aware of what the expectations are. And then we'll talk about some pitch fundamentals, or some quick tips and tricks that we can use to make our pitches more impactful, right? And then we'll hopefully spend a little bit of time coming up with some draft pitches that we can easily use, not only in the final presentation, but also in the conversations that you're going to have after the final presentations are over, and then going forward in your career. Okay. All right. So looking at the judging criteria as a whole, and then there's a link to also what the judges are going to be looking for. We have a couple of different criteria or points that we have to meet, right? And what you'll notice about this criteria is that we have a very short amount of time to do that in. And usually that's the case. One of the best pieces of advice I've got from a mentor of mine that has been very, very instrumental in me advancing in my career. He said to me, be brief, be brilliant, and then be gone. Right? And I take that to heart whenever I'm giving a presentation for senior leadership or any presentation, really. You want to quickly get to the point, you want to hook them, and then you want to kind of be gone means like, move on to the next thing. And hopefully, if you've done your job well, then they're going to be engaged and want to know more, right? So you don't initially take up the most amount of time talking about yourself or what you've done, but you give them just enough to leave them wanting more. And if they come back and they're like asking additional questions and really probing, then you've done your job correctly. And so that's what we're trying to get to, and why the amount of time that we're using for that is so short, right? And so you have a couple of requirements. So you have to identify how well does the system satisfy the requirements of the challenge. How original is it? What is the impact? Now, impact is something that I see repeatedly hit on, meaning that they want to know, what is the impact on your target customer, your target user, society in general, right? And having a deep understanding of that is what really sells, so to speak, sells your solution. And then finally, presentation and delivery. So the presentation skills that we're going to talk about today are ones that, don't just happen overnight, right? If you are nervous about speaking in front of people, then, I would say probably at least 80% of the population is in the same boat as you. Like, not too many people enjoy public speaking unless they've been practicing for a long time and it becomes kind of second nature. But if you're a severe introvert like I am, it takes a lot of work and a lot of practice, but once you get good at it, it's a skill that just keeps giving and giving and giving. Okay. So these are the judging criteria that we're going to be targeting and focusing on with our pitches today. Now there's 3, I would say, levels of pitches that we are going to discuss. One is the short pitch, also known as the bar pitch. And this is a very, very, very short, like think of the time it takes to read a tweet. Like that's how much time that you have to basically hook someone or deliver significant information to somebody. And then elevator pitch is probably one that you've heard of more often. It's a little bit longer, maybe 30 to 90 seconds, but basically the amount of time that you have riding an elevator, right? And then finally, we're going to talk about how do we bring those 2 types of pitches together and build on that to come up with a very nice, well-rounded pitch for your hack presentations. Okay, so let's talk about the short pitch first. Again, short pitch, 20 seconds. So imagine you bumped into a stranger, a relative, a friend in a grocery store, a bar, what have you, and you're catching up, and then they out of the blue ask you, "Hey, I heard you built an app. Can you tell me what it does?" Right? How do you focus on the key points to basically get them to understand what you did without overwhelming them to the point where their eyes kind of glaze over, right? And that is the short pitch. And so it's a very simple format. Basically, you are talking about the app name or your solution name. You identify what type of product or service it is. You identify the impact. So how does it help the particular audience that you developed it for? And then identify what the value proposition is. Now, the value proposition is what does it bring to that audience? Okay. And this part is a little bit difficult for, folks to grasp at first. Normally when people hear value proposition, they'll say, I built this tool and this tool helps people do X, Y, and Z, right? But instead, the customer's view of your tool might just be that it helps them complete a job or achieve a goal, right? That job or that goal is really the value proposition, not the tool itself. So let's look at an example. All right, so Airbnb. It's an online platform that helps homeowners rent out extra rooms in their house. right? So initially when Airbnb kind of came out, it wasn't entire houses, right? It wasn't even rooms. Like if you had like a spare bed in your room that somebody could sleep on, hey, you could get online and advertise it and rent it out and earn some extra cash, right? Now, if Airbnb was the tool and homeowners are the target audience, what really is the value proposition of renting out extra rooms in their house? Like, what do you gain from that?
They will gain money. It helps them to earn money.
Yep, definitely money. What else?
Uh,
There's some potential other value propositions, possibly.
yeah, I think that like they can share their house with some people so they do not feel lonely. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And there could be others, right?
Yeah.
And so the value propositions might not be one singular thing. There's another website, or another application, I don't know if it's still working now, but it was called Couch Surfing. And there was no exchange of money originally on this website. People would open up their homes to strangers, travelers coming through, and they would give them a couch to sleep on, and in exchange, that person might cook them a dinner, or might play some music for their family, or might do poetry, right? It was kind of an exchange of experiences. And so the value proposition itself could be completely different than what you think. So you kind of have to think broad about this, and maybe you can tailor your short pitch to center or focus on a value proposition for each specific audience that you're presenting this to, right? Very good. Very good insight on that. So let's look at another one. So here is another potential target user / customer segment. So Airbnb is an online platform that helps travelers rent rooms from local homeowners. And when you think about the value proposition for the homeowners and the travelers, right, it might be a little different. So let's look at this from the traveler's perspective. What would be the value proposition for travelers using Airbnb? About Kalina or Danica?
I think first of all, like they can have a place to live, but secondly, like they have someone that they can talk to ask about, okay, where should they visit in this town because they are new in this town. So someone that help them, okay, tell them where they can buy food, where they can go visiting.
Yeah, absolutely. So if the host is there, in the early days of Airbnb, usually the host would be in the house too, right? They become this like valuable source of knowledge about the city that they're in, maybe the neighborhood, resources that are around, which you may or may not get that same level of engagement at a hotel. Danica said it's also cheaper than a hotel. Absolutely. Any others? Awesome. I think you both hit on some of the potential value propositions for the traveler. So the cool thing about the short pitch is that this ad lib formula gives you a way to quickly identify what the solution is, who it's for, what it allows them to do, and then you have these value propositions kind of queued up and ready to go. Hopefully, if that's enough to spark interest in your audience, then the questions will come and you're ready, like, hey, good, I'm glad you asked that. This potentially could provide the traveler with an additional local resource to make their stay even more enjoyable. It's cheaper than a hotel. You just kind of go down of all the list of value propositions, you have them ready in your head, right? Let's look at another example, a couple more. All right, so Slack is an app that helps organizations communicate and share files via instant messaging, right? So really short, really simple. Everybody can probably understand that. Now, what are the potential value props here? For those of you that use Slack, what does it
I
help you
think
do?
the value is that it helps organizations and people to work more effectively.
Okay, It lets organizations work more effectively. So if all of these or all of the tasks related to communicating, sharing files, messaging each other, communicating quickly, like if all of that is efficient and easy to use, then you could potentially be more effective. You can have a more effective collaborations with your teams, right? Okay, any questions about the short pitch itself?
So in the short pitch, should we mention about the problem that they have? Or should we only mention about our solution?
I'm sorry, say that one more time. What was the question?
So in the short pitch, should we mention about the problem that our potential customer have?
Not at this point. So yeah, this will probably be part of the elevator pitch. For the short pitch, you're just identifying what is the solution and what does it do. That's pretty much it. Good
Thank you.
question though. All right. So again, this is the formula for the short pitch. Again, team name, app name. You're going to say what type of product or service it is, who it helps, and what does it do. Okay. So we're going to spend a few minutes coming up with a draft short pitch for our particular solution. And let's see, how many people do we have?
6, it looks like.
6. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pair you up, put you in breakout rooms, give you a few minutes to come up with your short pitch. It shouldn't take long. And then I would like you to present that short pitch to your team member in the room. And feel free to introduce yourselves, let them know, what you worked on, and give each other some feedback. And then we're going to regroup. I'll probably bounce around really quickly, but then we'll regroup and share out for those of you that are brave enough to share, right? Okay, any questions about this? And I'm going to put.
Sorry. Oh,
No worries, we're recording now.
sorry about that.
All good.
So just be sure to share this version of your version of the PowerPoint so I can share that in place of recording. Thank you.
That's 5 seconds left. Go ahead and post your problem statements in the chat.
That's funny.
Okay. Thank you, Kwang. All right, so we've got many incoming college students struggle to choose the right courses that align with their future career goals. Without clear guidance, they often rely on trial and error, which leads to wasting time, money, and motivation on classes that don't contribute to their desired career path. Oh, that's great. Academic advising resources are often limited or generalized, leaving students uncertain about how their coursework connects to specific professions. This lack of clarity leads to insufficient planning, academic planning, delayed graduation, and missed career opportunities. Excellent. That is perfect. So we have the what, we have the who has the problem from your previous statement, and then we've got 3 different impacts to choose from. I would focus in on the impact, like what is the most significant pain point, right? Because you still want this to be fairly short. I would pick one of those pain points and stick with the most significant one. That's really great.
Thank you.
Someone else?
If you prefer, you can just say it on the screen if you want. That makes it easier for you. There we go. Kalina.
Thanks, Kalina. Let's see. Monthly vendor reports are unorganized and difficult for state workers to analyze. Failing to solve this problem leads to a lack of awareness of issues in current state projects. I love this. This is really great. And I would even recommend, can we pull the thread further? So if there is lack of awareness of issues in current state projects, like ultimately, what can that lead to, right? Could that lead to lost funding? Could it lead to projects that don't get completed? You know, what is the impact for the state citizens? You know, what do they see in their day-to-day? This is great. How about one more?
Here we go.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. So Hawaiian government has many projects of varying categories for different fields. One of the main problems I'm tasked with solving is the readability and standardization of projects the Hawaii government is currently undertaking, or those that have been completed. It is difficult for the public or even government workers to read and dissect the varying projects. So this is great. I think Kalina and Jathan, you're on the same team, right? There are pieces of both of yours that I think would make an excellent problem statement, right? So you have, let me see. It is difficult for the public or even government workers to read and dissect varying projects, right? That is a really clear kind of what is the problem statement, right? Who has the problem? State workers, let me see, government workers, that's clear as well. And then the impact is, again, something that I think you can both kind of really, really pull the thread on. And you might even have to go talk with state workers and find out if you don't have awareness of your current state projects, who gets affected? Like how would I, as a citizen, how would I see the impact of this, right? And so you can begin to investigate to make your problem statements really impactful, right? This is great. This is a great start. Okay, so hopefully that formula is clear, because I think the problem statement, again, is probably one of the biggest hooks of your presentation. And you want to be as dramatic as possible to really make your audience feel that pain point and understand why this is an important problem to solve. Does that make sense so far? Okay, yes. Awesome. Okay, so let's look at the elevator pitch kind of structure as a whole. So the elevator pitch, again, 30 to 90 seconds tops. Introduction, who you are, what you do, the problem statement, and that might take a couple of iterations. But this is what you really want to use and refine to bring your audience in. And again, the introduction in itself, make sure you introduce who you are, but that can be your short pitch, right? So that's the benefit of having a short pitch that's 20 seconds or less, right? Of the total 90 seconds. So make that your short pitch. You can talk about, hey, this is what we've developed, and then talk about the problem statement. This is why we did what we did, right? Who's the problem? Or excuse me, what is the problem? Who has the problem? Why is it important? Okay. And then at the end of your elevator pitch, this is where you get to have some fun and focus in on your asks. So what do you want people to get out of this pitch? What do you want to get out of this pitch? Normally, this is the place where, you know, if you're in a situation where you're trying to ask for seed funding, or you're in a competition and you want to focus in on, hey, this is where we want to go next with this, right? And this is where the audience can help you with that. This is a good place to do that, right? And so whether it's funding, whether it's you want people to begin downloading your app, whether or not you want to meet with some potential investors later, this is where you get the ask. Okay. And so don't only think about this in the context of your final presentation. What is going to be your ask when you're having one-on-one conversations and kind of the meet and greet after the competition as well? How can you spin this to lead to a potential meeting related to a job offer, right? Hey, this is my pitch. This is what we talked about during the competition, and I would love to get your input and some feedback into how we can make this application better. Or I'd love to get your feedback on, you know, some different directions we can take this, or maybe some other customers that might be interested. Can I get your email, or you know, can we go out for a coffee and discuss this further, right? So the ask could be just time, it could be funding, it could be feedback on your solution, it could be a meeting to discuss next steps. You know, it's kind of up to you and your team, but this formula can be used for not only your presentation, but also for those follow-on conversations.
I can add one thing here.
Yeah.
In the hack presentation, you don't want to have actually an ask incorporated into your presentation, because you only have 2 minutes for the presentation and you don't want to get bogged down with the ask, because it's not going to have any application in this particular incarnation. But think about what you might want to do with your solution. Kind of keep the ask in the back of your mind and use that the expo, the Meet and Connect Expo, and then start talking about, hey, you know, like talk to the challenge authors and stuff like that, and so you seem to really like my solution. Do you want to like talk more about it, type thing? That's where I would use the ask, is in the Meet and Connect Expo. Just anyway.
Okay, so that's the elevator pitch. Now let's talk about the pitch that you're going to use for your presentation, the actual hack pitch, right? So again, you have a 2-minute presentation plus a 1-minute live demo.
2-minute live demo. That changed.
2 minutes, sorry.
This is a little old deck, and I apologize, I didn't catch that. 2-minute presentation,
No,
2-minute live demo, 2-minute Q&A. Go ahead.
Right. Yep. Sorry, I didn't catch that either. So you have 2-minute presentation and a 2-minute live demo. Now, what's going to happen during the hack pitch, the part of the pitch where you're actually talking, not giving the demo? You can do your intro, you can weave in your short pitch, you can weave in your elevator pitch without the ask, and then any additional details that you want to share. Again, focus on those specific pain points and who's affected most and why the solution is needed. Okay. So looking at the specific breakdown for the pitch, again, start by talking about who you are, right? And then you can weave in your short pitch there. So what you do, what your solution does, and this should really be 20 seconds or less, right? Don't spend a lot of time here. And then you can get into your elevator pitch that discusses, you know, what is the problem, who has the problem, why the problem is important. Okay. Like Thelma said, save the ask for the follow-on discussions, follow-on conversations that happen after. Okay. And then you can talk about the details of your solution. So this is something that you've probably been working on over the past few weeks. So why does your solution actually solve the problem? How is your solution creative, innovative? How is your solution user-friendly? And then again, tie the knot and circle back to what is the impact of that solution. So again, this is identified already in the why is the problem important to solve. Okay. Really, when you circle back and talk about the impact of your solution, I like to flip that. So we talked about why is the problem important to solve. Focus in on how does my solution solve the problem? How does it make the world better? How does it make my target users' lives better? Okay, so two sides of the same coin, but essentially you're really tying the knot on that selling point there. Okay, and then you go into the demonstration. All right. Any questions about the breakdown or the different parts of the pitch?
So do we need to include the ask now?
No. So that elevator pitch ask, you're going to want to save that for the follow-on conversation. So don't do it during the hack pitch, but still think about what you want to ask for, and then use that as a way to continue the conversation after the presentation and after, when you have your networking time, right? And that could be, you want to get some feedback from customers. You want people to download and use your app, whatever the ask could be. Like, save that for the follow-on conversations after the presentation. So it's not going to be part of your hack presentation.
I see. Thank you.
It's really a matter of using your time wisely. And because the people you're pitching to could not give you anything you asked for, right? They're just judges evaluating that your presentation is good, your demonstration was good. So they're just evaluating your presentation and the solution you've created. So using an ask in this scenario and wasting 30 seconds when you only have 2 minutes on that is not very wise. So that's why I'm saying don't use it in the pitch and your presentation. You only have 2 minutes to do these first 3 things, right? Anyway, is that clear? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah. So remember, this short pitch introduction should be about 20 seconds or less. So rehearse it that way. And if you want to rehearse these in pieces, that's great. Make sure you refine the messaging and each part is strong. The elevator pitch, 30 to 90 seconds. But if you go, don't go 90 seconds for the whole elevator pitch, because you still want to talk about the details of your solution that, again, hit on the judging criteria that's expected. Okay. All right. So just want to talk about a couple additional tips and tricks, and then we'll wrap up with some Q&A. So one, I cannot say this enough, especially if this is your first time kind of giving a presentation to a large audience, make sure you practice. There is no message, no amount of editing of the message that is going to prepare you to do this in front of an audience. Go out, give your pitch to, your significant other, your parents, your roommates, other students in your class, right? Use every opportunity as an opportunity to practice the message, and then have them repeat it back to you. See what sticks, see what, kind of goes over their head, and refine your pitch over and over and over again until you get it to a point where you can say it probably without notes. The 2 minutes will go by super fast, right? And so just make sure you're really comfortable and iterate so many times on this. Next thing is make them feel something. Again, with the impact, really pull the thread on it and try to find the underlying reason why this problem is so important to solve. You're not making, or you're not setting out to be super over dramatic and make things up, but more likely the impact that you're focusing on has further reaching ramifications. So, feel free to dig in that, ask people questions, especially, if you have access to your target user, and find out if this problem doesn't get solved, what ultimately is the true result, right? And use that to help make your audience really feel the pain point that you're focusing on. Okay. So that kind of ties into the last thing. Again, impact is the way to make them feel something. So really try to refine that and make it impactful. Yeah. Okay. With that said, that's all I had for you today. Thank you for your time. I'll open it up to questions right now, or if you want any feedback, let me know. Thoughts, questions?
I would like to offer one suggestion to Jathan and Kalina. So one of the impacts of a tool like this to the state is it helps them to identify issues so they don't have cost overruns. So usually the government doesn't cancel things, they just end up paying the extra money. But if they can catch things early, so I'm just going to give you a little hint of something that you could possibly use, because that's a big purpose of this tool. So.
See, that is great information to have right there.
Kalina's asking, how would you recommend dividing up the presentations since it's so short? Because my team has a lot of people on it, so not sure how to divide it up.
Yeah. So how many people are on your team?
8.
Ooh, 8. Okay. So I definitely wouldn't have 8 people talking. If you really rehearse, like you could probably divide the first 2 minutes up with 2 people speaking, but in presentations with multiple people, you know, sometimes you might see, okay, and now I'm going to turn it over to such and such to talk about blah, blah. Don't do any of that. So if you're going to have more than one person talking, it should be seamless. Like you talk for a minute and then the next person jumps right in and maybe talks for a minute, and you can divide those pieces up accordingly. Maybe one person talks about the intro and the problem statement, and then the second person transition into the details and the demo. But all 8 of you definitely don't need to talk with the time that you have. I'd say 2, 3 at most, but it would have to be super seamless.
She's exactly right. I've had, teams of 3 sometimes have been okay because they practice it and they transition very easily. But she was saying there's the intro and the starter person, then the person who gives the details. That's a nice one. Usually it's the more into guy. And then there's the person who gives the demonstration. That's usually the most common breakdown if it's not just one person doing everything. So I encourage you to have only a few people. Don't try to have all 8 of your team members give the presentation. It's not, and it wouldn't work that way in the real world either. Think about it. If you had a team building a solution, there's usually 1 or 2 people who are assigned to the end users to teach them how to use it, or to meet with the decision makers. Not everybody on your team goes to those meetings. So you want to think of your team as a professional team, and tasks are divvied up. So, but Danielle, that was dead on. I excellent answer there. So
one last piece of advice, time yourselves. Time yourselves every time you rehearse this. If you kind of go into it and try to wing it, you're going to go over time. I guarantee it. And it will look like you have not rehearsed. So time yourselves every single time you practice this. And don't time yourself separately. Time yourself, if there's more than one of you talking, time yourselves together and make sure that if you can end right at 3 minutes or like 4 minutes for the whole thing, then it's going to look amazing, like you really hosted it.
Yeah, so again, for those of you who are new to this type of thing, we have a timer. They won't stop you at 2 minutes and say move to your demonstration, but they'll have a little sign that says like 1 minute left. So if you haven't even started your presentation and you have 1 minute left, that means you have like no time to do your demonstration, and then that's going to impact your score, right? Because if they can't see what you built, so no one's going to say to you, if you talk for a minute and then have a longer demonstration, but use all 4 of those minutes. Okay, you don't do a 1 minute presentation, a 1 minute demonstration, and then say thank you, any questions. that's a waste. Use all your time. But again, it's much, the judges know what the breakdown is. So they're expecting you to take 90 seconds, the minimum for your presentation. So that's a minute and a half, right? The more time you can put on that, because particularly when you're trying to give the details and so forth. And then, make sure you use that 2 minutes. But the problem I've seen happen in the past is people get nervous and they ums and ahs and ooh, and next thing you know, the whole 4 minutes have gone by. And they've only done like a 30-second demo. So timing, practice. So, and even if for some strange reason you submitted a project and it was horrible and you didn't get invited to the presentation day, start building your presentation anyway, because that's probably not going to happen. It's very rare that it happens. Most of the people who submit projects usually do a good enough job that they get invited to present. So no harm in starting to build some of these slides and components today, as of today. Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
Other questions? Oh, sorry.
Hi, Thelma. So on the day of presentation, like, can we run the demo live on our computer, or we need to run on the hard computer?
No, you bring your own laptops and computers or mobile phones.
So
that's why you come Friday night. You come
Okay.
Friday night with whatever the devices you're going to use that morning, next morning.
Yeah.
And we plug it in and make sure everything's that you can bring up. We have make sure you can bring up your presentation. We make sure that you can run your demo. And so each person gets their you don't have to do the whole thing. You don't do the whole 4 minutes, but you go in and you make sure that you can access to and that you can bring up your PowerPoint in presentation mode, and then that you can get into your demo and show it. And then the next person comes up. That's why we have you come the night before, because we make sure, because we don't use our own equipment. We only use our own equipment for our slide decks and our presentation. So we eliminated that. You used to have to send your decks into me, and then you'd be coming up to me Saturday morning with a stick saying, "Oh, here's my stuff," right? So we learned that it was easy to plug and unplug. That takes like 10 seconds, particularly if we practice the night before. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So
Any other questions? Oh, wait, here we go. So we're allowed to have slides when we're doing our intro. In fact, I encourage you to have slides for that first 2 minutes. It's much more polished and professional looking. Have them be creative, have them be clever. Don't just have like a white page with words on it. Okay? Images are really powerful. Do not have spreadsheets with little numbers on it. Okay. Does that help, Kalina? I know that you're doing, a government project. So how do you be clever about that? Well, you show people pulling their hair out, right? So that's one of, so you show like necessarily the emotion around having to deal with this problem. You don't have to type the problem on the screen. Does that distinction make sense to everybody? Show the impact of the problem on the screen. Don't show a spreadsheet, right? Because the first one evokes an emotion. The other one's like, right? That's not, you don't want that. You're to be going like, oh my God, it's so boring. You want to be going like, what do you like? Oh, wow. Okay. Evoke the emotion, as Danielle was saying. Guess I've been doing this too long. All right. Any other questions for Danielle or me about this? 222. 6 whole minutes.
So at that place there is internet, right? There's Wi-Fi, right?
Say that again, Kwong. Sorry.
Is there Wi-Fi in that location? The Wi-Fi connection?
Oh yeah, you'll have usernames and passwords. We'll have them Friday night again. And that'll be the same one used for Saturday.
Okay.
General advice on Q&A is basically the judges are not real technical. So they're not going to say to you, so which product does the right? They might say to you, why did you choose to use Salesforce versus some other? Why did you tell you it's so if you were using I'm sorry, I keep using Salesforce. It's just a platform that I can remember. It's not because I think you should be using it. Why did you choose to build your AI agent on Microsoft versus Oracle? They won't really ask you that. They may say to you, why did you choose to do such and such? Or one of the common questions is, how did you and your team break up? So they're going to ask you kind of generic things. They're trying to get a feel for how you and your team worked together. The other general advice around the Q&A is keep the answers brief. Let them ask you multiple questions rather than ask one question and you go on for 3 minutes. Well, you won't have, again, the timer will stop you at 4 minutes. The timer will stop you at 2, and then you're off. You're done. You don't get to continue. Now, what I've seen happen is when a person's in the middle of a demonstration and they just missed the last comment, the judges will say to you, so if you had an extra minute, how would you have finished up that demonstration? They're really very nice to you. If this were a pitch contest, they would be like, cut your throat, you're off the screen, it's real, because usually they're giving out lots more than a couple $1,000. They're giving out $125,000, $75,000. So they're pretty brutal. So it's a good practice to be succinct, do things quick. The general advice is, and again, this is a nice time to maybe bring more of your teammates up, so that if there's a question asked by somebody other than your presenter, they can jump. But you would have to make sure that not everybody try to jump in and answer a question, right? So again, use your common sense about this, right? Answer concisely as you can, and if it's a question, they're not going to ask you questions you can't answer. I'm just going to say that. I know that from past experience. Okay. Anything else? All right. Well, I think then we thank Danielle. Sorry, I keep wanting to make you Daniela. I just want such a pretty sounding name. Thank you so much, Danielle. That was really a good presentation, and I'm sorry I kind of missed a little bit in the middle there. So we'll have this. I'll put the recording up, but remember we kind of missed a couple of slides. But we'll have the slides too, so that you can kind of get into the missed section. So, but Danielle, thank you so much for your great presentation.
Of course. Thanks everybody for your attention, and yeah, good luck in your presentation.